Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is a highly advised podcast. I'm here with me and my friends. It's Lau and Spence. We're here coming to bring y'all another episode. This is episode 22. Here talking real shit with y'all. How's everybody doing this week?
I can't call it, man. Everything's everything for the most part. Got a little too cozy this week. So that's about it. How about y'all?
Yo. It's your boy, Big Cozy, Too Cozy, a.k.a. Lau. You know, the bad guy. I'm doing good, and hopefully you guys are having a good week, and next week is going to be a good week as well.
Quick question, Lau. Like, from last episode, you was talking about you was too cozy and you had to go to the doctor, right? You want to get the fans a follow-up to that?
Basically, my doctor was kind of like, I could prescribe you some medicine that's going to help you out, right, but I think you should go to a chiropractor first. So I'm going to try out the chiropractor first.
Just take all the medicine, though. At once.
Yeah. Take a handful.
Yeah.
Of course. Why not?
Tell the doctor. Like, it's like, yo, fam, just mix all of that shit up. It's like, which one you supposed to take? Just give me a handful, man. I'll be good.
Yeah. It's the best way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you only live once, man. You live once, but you can die twice.
Do you want your back to be hurting forever? If you take all that medicine, your back won't be hurting at all.
Of course. That's why I'm listening to you guys.
See?
Yeah.
Trying to help you out.
Yeah,
see what friends do for each other, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let's
you ain't trying to hear shit I'm saying. Not a thing. But nah, I don't know. It's been an interesting week, to be honest with you, yo.
It's been crazy, man. Like it's one of those things where it's like life is just fucking weird, man.
2020.
Yeah, it's like I don't really know how to call it. Like I'm here. That's what I can say. It's not really that good. It's not really that bad. I'm just fucking here, man. That's what I feel.
I know that feeling, man. I mean, sometimes your only assignment is just to make it to class for the day.
Yeah.
Not even to participate. So I think everybody living through that shit though.
I'm definitely in class, but I'm like kind of bullshitting on my notes. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm just here. I'm sitting in the back, like kind of joking with my friends and shit. Speaking of which, me and Lyle sat in the back of class in high school, and in math class together.
Yep, that's when we started being cool and shit. Yeah,
that shit was like VIP back in the day.
No, I was just gonna say, before then, I didn't really. I mean, I knew Nigel and he knew me, but we weren't really like kicking it like that. It wasn't until that math class, bro, and then the rest was history.
Hey man, sometimes that's how friendships work, man.
Yeah, man.
All it takes is that one moment,
making each other laugh and shit.
Yeah, and I remember the teacher used to be like, "Yo, guys, stop talking," but we just kept.
Yeah, we didn't give a fuck. Like, just sitting back there chilling and shit, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of people laughing, something just recently happened with Katt Williams. He put something out. He put something out with Supreme. He's sitting there, kind of speaking his truth to the people. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say I would like to say he's speaking the truth to the people, not his truth, right?
Right.
Everything he was saying was pretty much facts, and of course there's going to be people that's going to dispute it, because there's always detractors and opposition with everything. But what he was saying is stone cold facts, man. It's just that's kind of how our country is in right now. You know what I mean? Where it's crazy how celebrities and entertainers are making a lot more sense than the people that's making the fucking laws.
But that's because there's no bias. That's all that is. Like, I think more often than not, we look for, and I think I said this before on one of the episodes, we look at entertainers as a resource for like making sense of what's going on in the world far too often. Because I think most people are under certain circumstances where their viewpoints and perspectives could get them ousted from whatever their job is, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can see why we always have to lean on them, because far too often, I think in government and everything, I mean, we know what lobbyists are. Like, when you have someone that's a lobbyist, that lets you know like what this whole situation is to some extent. So, I think a lot of times when people make decisions, it's based off their personal interests. I think sometimes, and and on top of it, even in the Katt Williams thing, he tried to dissolve the notion, not the notion, but he tried to dissolve the stereotype that a lot of people may have about people, right? And just saying like, yo, you know, you've been waiting for hundreds of years and nothing has happened. And you say we're this, that, and the third, and nothing has happened. We're better than that. And it's like trying to dissolve just that whole notion of like, yo, far too often that what happens, I think racism, especially because it's, I believe, to me personally, I believe racism is a learned behavior. I think the issue with it is far too often these minds get shaped at such an early age that by the time they don't even understand like, oh, this person's not dangerous. And I think with him doing a collab, for anybody listening that may not know what we're talking about, Katt Williams did a Supreme commercial. And we actually had a chance to sit, actually it just released probably while we were recording.
Yeah, like a couple hours ago.
Yeah, so like we did, like he did I think like there's a 30-second version, but there's a 7-minute version of it that I suggest everybody check out. Even in that 7-minute version, like I think the thing that helped with dissolving and getting the attention of others is the fact that it's with such a high end brand that is very well connected to urban culture and possibly people that are parents of kids who may have a certain, or not even parents, but just some people that consume your product have a different belief system.
My thing is this, right? Like the things he was saying, like it makes like a lot of sense. It's just like, it's so easy for us to just be on the same page and just try to, well, I should say it's not easy, but it should be easy for us to be on the same page and like support each other through this and just do the right things. But because we all are so like heavily invested in our opinions and our personal interests, we just can't get over like ourselves to just do the same thing and for the right reason. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it should be simple, but for whatever reason, we just can't get on the same page. Like, I'm convinced that if something more serious were to have happened than this coronavirus situation, we would be really fucked because we can't even all put on a mask, even though it's like we should be able to do that.
I think that's just people in general when it comes to like personality, right? More people are not willing to be on the same page just because of whatever their values and belief systems are. Far too often to agree with someone that you're talking on an issue about, it involves having to sometimes go against your own value system and belief system. You get what I mean? And it's just one of those things that it's just hard. I think it's hard for many people and like I said, even like we were saying with not even just necessarily government, but people, they have their own self-interest, bro. Like people, like you saw that in Michigan where people were literally standing outside, or even out here where the guy was out here protesting with an AK-4, what was it, AR-15, AK-47?
AR-15. Or hollow point bullets.
Yeah, because he felt safe that way to protest, to not wear a mask.
That shit's like, crazy to me. Like, I don't understand. Yeah. Like, it's like, I mean, I
get it to some extent.
People care more about standing up for their rights for staying inside than they do about standing up for the rights of another human being. That shit blows my mind. Like, it really does.
But that's because that's their self-interest.
Yeah, but that's fucked up.
Well, I mean, surprise, surprise, right? We live in a world where there's a lot of greed, envy, and jealousy, you know, and all tie in together, right? So the greater good is, you know, we're all human beings, all lives matter, all this, all that, blah, 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 right? Unfortunately, not everybody wants to be on that fucking page. And then there's some people who claim they're on that page, but they refuse to have an open mind about it, right? Like, for example, the people who aren't black, and they're like, oh, well, I don't believe there's racism because, you know, I had a hard life. There's people like that. So, like, I feel like that you're always going to get that crazy, always going to get that one person, kind of like, you know, fuck black people, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I'm going to stand up for my rights to not wear a fucking mask so I don't, even though that I'm potentially spreading the virus by me not giving a fuck of what people are telling me what to do. So it's like a lot of people are selfish, man, in this fucking world, you know. And unfortunately, this is the uphill battle that as human beings is going to keep battling until generations later, when people are starting, where all the negative people and shit is starting to phase out. And Spencer's right. Racism is a learned behavior, and there is people that still support fucking racism, and there's still people that are ignorant, and they're kind of like, well, fuck it, I'm going to be racist because I don't know any better.
Extremely.
There's people like that, and it's so fucking unfortunate. And I just pray for my child, my grandchildren, and my descendants that they experience a lot less of what we've experienced today and what our ancestors have experienced in the past.
I feel like based off like just the stories that I've heard, right, from like growing up, I think I believe that we're fortunate enough that our kids will be in a space that is a lot more harmonious to them and more welcoming. I do believe just because of like when you hear just horror stories, and even I was actually listening to a video on YouTube the other night, and it was just like, it was a bunch of clips from like the 1960s of people talking about like their issues with racism and asking for equality at the time. This is like 68, 67. A lot of the same things that they were talking about, we're still having the conversation to this day in terms of equality, fair chances, and so on and so forth. And I think, like you said, like a lot of people have phased themselves out, but unfortunately, it's a learned behavior. A lot of people in this, not even just this country necessarily, but this world believe that most people have a fair chance. Everybody is born equally. When I say born equally, I mean like in the terms of opportunity. A lot of times people believe we are all given the same opportunity or whatever the case may be. So it's like, it's just one of those things. But even then though, like with the whole Katt Williams shit, like it's just a crazy situation. I think it's a crazy commercial that I think was a necessary talk piece, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because and granted, like I know there's so much other stuff that we have to talk about, but even just going back and looking at the conversations we've had prior to about voting, and Katt Williams thankfully addressing that situation of how many people are saying the whole thing about I can vote this or I can go do that, blah, blah, blah. But instead they're saying, well, instead of voting for Trump or Bernie, because some people believe they're unfavorable to some people, right?
Right.
People decide to say, well, I'm just going to go write in Kanye, or I'm going to write in Bernie, I'm going to write in whoever. And even Katt Williams said, at the end of the day, the writing is not going to help get a different result. At the end of the day, we know either of those two candidates are gonna win. And I think now, especially with everything going on between the racism and the mass stuff, some people are going to have more resistance now just because of like someone like Joe Biden. Because you have people that are willing to vote for Joe, but some people and I've seen that some people are unfavored, are not favoring Joe more or less because of him picking Kamala Harris as his VP, which I think is absurd.
It's kind of interesting with the whole Kamala Harris thing because I think Kamala Harris is an interesting pick for VP. I know a lot of people think of her as a cop. She's not. She was never a cop from what I know, but apparently she was a very strong prosecutor and ended up like leading to a lot of people being in jail for different types of charges and whatnot. I can understand why that makes some people upset, but at the same point in time, it just seems that out of the two VPs and the two choices for president, that's one of the best directions we can go in, even if she's not the person I would necessarily vote for. I think at the end of the day, it was a nice move because I was kind of expecting him to choose Bernie, or I should say, I wasn't expecting him to choose Bernie, but I thought that might be a good choice for him. But at the same point in time, people don't like Bernie like that. They think he's too radical. So I can understand why he chose somebody Kamala, who she's like, a lot of Democrats are kind of like Republican light. And like she can kind of fit in there as well. But she's also one of the more what's the word I was looking for? I would say more what's the word I'm looking for? Not, the way they describe like the newer generation of Democrats.
I'm not
sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, she's one of the more left leaning Democrats, like in comparison to some of the others, but like not really. So I see.
You trying to say like she's liberal? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like she has some liberal opinions, but at the same point in time, she has hard stances against other things. And you see some people also saying like, oh, well, she said that she never smoked weed in the past. And then she went on Breakfast Club and talked about smoking weed with Snoop Dogg. And it's just weird stuff. You know what I mean?
So the thing, Biden should have chose a woman. Biden should have chose a black woman. Unfortunately, the woman that he chose wasn't a favorable pick, right? Because initially he was going to choose a white woman, and that the lady from I don't want to say Milwaukee, but she is from
Amy Klobuchar.
Yes. So, and people were not happy with that pick. So, he went back to the drawing board, and then now, boom, we got Kamala Harris, and a lot of people are upset because of when she used to be district attorney or whatever. She was locking up niggas, right? And I agree with people who are upset about that. You know what I mean? Like, now that she's selected for VP and she's depending on the black vote, it's kind of like, damn what she's done in the past. It's kind of like with Joe Biden. Not Joe Biden, my bad. Joe Biden.
Right.
Joe Biden. Damn what he did in the past, even though he had a part in that fucking crime bill. And now he's playing cover up with the shit. And her, because it's going to come up, it's going to keep coming up now, I guarantee you she's going to play cover up with it. She isn't going to come out and be 100% honest in what she did. So I understand why people are like, kind of like, fuck, now we got to deal with the lesser of two evils once again, just like 4 years ago with Hillary and Trump. Even though that Kamala isn't the greatest choice and all that, I'm kind of like, let's be real. Let's not act surprised here. I don't think Biden was going to choose a strong black woman in the first place. He could have easily done it. He could have.
My thing is this.
I don't think he could have easily done it.
My thing is this. I think most people, and I reached out to some people that were a little more well-versed than Kamala Harris, right? And granted, just like any politician, she does have some strikes against her in terms of like whatever she did with, like in California, in terms of like locking kids up or locking people up just because of, like, I know I've seen a clip at least of her talking about, they were going to set something about, like, I guess locking people up if the kids didn't go to school, right? At the same time, I wouldn't say she's not strong. She's strong. It's just the fact that I think her viewpoints may differ from others. But at the same time, you're not going to have, there's no politician that you're going to find. I don't care of race. I don't care of gender. You're going to find something that is unfavorable to you as a person, right?
No, right. And I didn't mean, let me say this real quick before you finish your point. I'm not saying that she's not a strong woman. Let me not say that. But she was not the choice that a lot of people, a lot of minorities was imagining that was going to get chose.
Right.
Unless you're in that political space where the game that's being played. But for like the average American, that was definitely not somebody that was high on the list. But I'm not saying she's not a strong woman. I mean, she couldn't be able to have the opportunity that she got if she wasn't strong. So I'm not saying that she isn't strong at all. I was just saying that, he could have chose any strong black woman, but he went with Kamala Harris as his pick, which was unfortunately an unfavorable pick for a lot of people.
Right. I mean, it's an unfavorable pick for a lot of people, but I think I'm not going to say it was his best decision, but I think trying to get the vote, I think she may have been a good decision just because of like Nigel was saying, how she has liberal viewpoints, but she has some conservative viewpoints as well. And I think by having that, it allows people to say, well, this is someone that I'm willing to stand behind, because this is probably looks more like a politician in comparison to like some of the other politicians we have seen or whatever, right? In our lifetime. So I think that's probably one of the good reasons why. And on top of it, it's like I think being able to see, especially, it's going to speak volumes in the years to come. Definitely, whether it be like she's an HBCU grad at AKA, she's made it pretty far within politics for where she started at. So I think it was a good decision for him. I'm curious to see if what the turnout is, because I think had it been a male, had it not been a woman of color, I think he would have had a hard time, just because he had came out initially saying he was going to put a woman of color as a VP. So,
well, here's what I will say. Like, I think that the people who were going to vote for Trump, like, all right, let me say it like this. I think the people who are racist that'll vote for Trump, this does nothing for them. If anything, it might make it stronger that they'll vote for Trump. Because they're not going to vote for a black chick, period. I think for people who like Trump but aren't necessarily racist, I think that this might have them look at her views, you know what I mean, to a certain degree. But I think that it's weird, because the people that I've spoken to that were kind of iffy about Trump, but like, hey, like I'm voting for Trump for Mike Pence, or like, I don't really like Trump, but I kind of like some of the stuff he's saying. I could see some of those people possibly being swayed by somebody like Kamala Harris, but they were not swayed by Joe Biden. I don't think anybody was really swayed by Joe Biden. This kind of makes him more of a valid candidate, because his VP is decent. Because honestly,
that's fair. That's fair enough.
Joe Biden was like losing this for himself. The more he talked, it was like the less of a chance he had to win. It's like, but shut up.
But I can't say that. But see, the only thing is because when you looked at the numbers, he's killing it in the numbers. When you look at when they've done the numbers, and that's the reason why we're having the issues now with the USPS, where pretty much what has been said is that he doesn't want the current president doesn't want write-in ballots, because he feels as though it can manipulate everything. He's also changed who his I think his campaign manager. Trump's changed his campaign manager because he's down in the polls. So I think at the end of the day, Joe was still in terms of where he is now prior to Kamala Harris being announced as his VP. I think he was still. I mean, you can disagree, but I'm basing it off the numbers. I'm basing it off the law that the government, I think they've already passed it, or they're on the way of passing it, where if you have whatever the popular vote is, the Electoral College has to vote the same. So even if it was the same situation as 2016 and the popular vote is still not for who is currently elected, in that situation, the people voted for Hillary and the Electoral College voted for him. In the same situation, even if it's the people based off the numbers now, and he's pretty much smashing him in the numbers, if the people would vote for Joe, this time because of the laws, the Electoral College would have to vote for Joe as well. So I think he was still a favorable opponent, and he was still looking to be in contention. I think Kamala Harris is just I think that's going to be a huge benefactor for him, just in terms of broadening his demographic of voters.
Well, here's what I'll say, right? Like, and the only reason I disagree with you, like what you're saying does have sense to it, but I just don't like to think of the polls as being like an indicator of what's actually going on, because Trump was down in the polls for a while before he won. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just like when I see polls, it's just like I don't really strongly listen to the polls. They might be a little indicator of what's going on, but that doesn't really tell the full story. That's all.
I agree with that to some extent, but I think in this situation, I'm leaning more with the numbers just because of just from everything I see. Right, I think in terms of the last go round, it was a different circumstance. It was just different circumstances that got him to where he was, despite being down. Right, and like I said, even then, he lost the popular vote. He lost the popular vote, and Hillary won that, but the Electoral College voted opposite. And this time, just like last time, the people are favoring Joe, same as they did Hillary. But this time the government said, yo, nah, if the people vote for this person, the Electoral College has to vote for this person as well. So it kind of mitigates just that type of risk that could possibly happen because of the electoral and the popular vote. So, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I do believe that he was still looking strong despite stuff that happens. And granted, anything can happen moving forward. But anytime I'm seeing someone change the campaign manager, I'm seeing where the postal service is changing. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have encountered that.
He's definitely doing some shady shit. I just believe in implementation when I see it. You know what I mean? That's all.
Right. I feel you on that, but I feel you on that, and I believe in it when I see it, but I also believe in, like, I just know when I see certain things at the end of it. Certain things when you're in a room, and you know what I'm talking about. When you're in a room, sometimes certain things, the way the room is moving, you can tell, like, okay, I'm getting a better temperature as to what's it like in the room, whether it's someone trying to do too much or whether someone's not doing enough or whatever the case may be. So I don't know. I think having Kamala Harris as his VP will help. I mean, I'm not sure in terms of the turnout we'll only know once we get to it at the end of the day. But I think the turnout is going to help him a lot. The same as when we've had different elections and circumstances have been somewhat similar.
That's fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, one of them has to choose what's going on with this vaccine. So, I mean, like, it really depends on, like, what they're going to do. They might shoot us all in our sleep.
No.
With vaccine. With vaccine.
I was about to say, damn, you trying to, never mind. Why are we following a law why are we following an amendment from 1905, yo, that says we could be fined if we don't take this vaccine?
Same reason why they follow a bunch of laws that's created over a century ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. At the end of the day, like, we kind of, like, base a lot of shit off of, like, the Constitution, which was written like how long ago now? That shit needs to be, like, heavily amended in some of the parts, you know what I mean?
I think over the years we've noticed that, where the government and the people have noticed where there needs to be change within that. Over the years, of course, that's how we ended up getting the Civil Rights Act and so many other acts, the Voters' Rights Act and everything underneath. So, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's still, we're a country that's a work in progress, to say the least.
Right. But we're a great country, though. Like, I'm not going to hate on America. I love America. I love living here. But at the same point in time, some shit's fucked up here. You know what I mean? It's like when you're living in a house and you know you got a leak in the roof.
I mean, everywhere around the world is fucked up, right? The motherland is fucked up.
Right.
There's leaders over in the motherland that's fucking up the continent.
Right.
So, like, everywhere is fucked up. And so, like, I grew up here in America. So, like, I have no problem living in America. But I acknowledge that this country is, this country needs some fucking help. It needs not help from, like, outside force, but, like, and shit needs to be changed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of these people that's such in a rush to go ahead and leave America. I'm moving to Canada and Toronto. Like, everywhere is fucked up, bro. Like, I imagine, if we were Canadians, there'd be trouble there that Canadians are facing too, that they wish that their government is changed. So, like, running away ain't fucking fixing the problem. I don't like when people do that shit. To me, it's like a form of, like, being a coward. Like, bro, like, you're not gonna get away from shit. You're not.
I don't agree. I don't agree in that sense. I don't agree in that sense, just because I agree when you're running from a personal problem and you just try to relocate to get away from a personal problem, that's being a coward. But I think when people elect themselves to move to another country because of whatever the turmoil is within their home country, I do believe that is, I wouldn't say it's cowardly, because personally, I would say it's not cowardly, because you have instances where it's like, okay, if there's institutional problems, if there's issues with the institution, and I say, well, hey, I found a place where there's still issues, but from my understanding and what I've researched and my experience visiting these places, I have a better chance of whatever my idea of success and peace is in that other country. And to me, I don't find that to be cowardly. That's like looking at someone like James Baldwin. James Baldwin, because of race and his sexuality, he decided to move to France. And he probably would have never been as big as what he was had he lived in America all of his life. He was still great even prior to leaving, but I think he was able to flesh out who he was. Or even like you have times, like there's people, like I didn't know until years ago that there were black people that lived in Russia. You have black people that live in Russia, some of these other countries that were American, but it's based off the fact that you have, when they were fighting wars back in the day, some people said, yo, I'm not leaving. I'd rather live in this country instead because I don't have to deal with the intensity of racism. I wouldn't say that's cowardly. I would think that's just saying like, hey, I'd rather have, the system's not going to change itself. And the fight to change the system is going to take so long that I can, instead of enduring that, I'd rather go somewhere else where I feel as though I'll be more celebrated.
Okay. I mean, if you want to take you and your family or whoever to live elsewhere because there's a better life and all that for you, that's fine. But I feel like to be like, oh well, it's a better country over there. Like you can't fucking say that. If you watch BBC fucking news, there's a lot of shit happening in fucking Europe and fucking Asia. It's all fucked up. And I just said about in Africa, right? African leaders, their game is fucked up over there too. So what I'm saying is kind of like this, right? If you want to go ahead and move over to another continent because you're like, look, my life is going to, this is the life I want to live under that and all that. Fine, more power to you. But to me, I don't want to hear like I'm living over here because this country is a lot better than fucking America. I'm like, bro, like, I mean, that has something to do with it, bro. Because I mean, look overseas, all them fucking civil wars and shit like that.
Right.
All them motherfuckers,
but nobody's moving. I mean? Nobody's moving from America to go to a place where it's a war country.
No, like, I'm not, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is those countries over there that's having them civil wars and all that, and they leave. That's a good enough reason because they're in fucking wartime. Where right now we have no fucking shit like that going on. There's a lot of fucked up shit that's going on in this country, but it's not where there's a civil fucking war, so all of a sudden America is the worst place on fucking earth. That's not. America is fucked up. But so is other fucking countries, bro.
Right.
If you want to move to a different country because you feel like it's better for you, that's cool. And that's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it because you're like, America is the worst country in the fucking world, I'm like, nah, bro, it's not. It's really not. There's other countries out there that's a lot worse than fucking America.
Yeah, there are a lot of countries. And I will say I think America is probably, if not the greatest, is probably one of the greatest countries in the world. I have no problem saying that. But I think just like all other countries, there's issues there. Like I said, and I agree with some of the things you're saying. But I think when people decide to leave, I think when they say, oh, if I decide to move to Italy, if I decided to, and I'm just using a country, I'm just naming a country offhand. So, of course, whatever comes with it, comes with it. But like if I decided to move to Italy, right? And I said, well, I'm moving to Italy because from my research, from my visiting, from people I know, people that live there or whatever, I realized like, hey, I won't have to deal with like me. Let's say I decide to say I want to move to a country in Africa, right?
Okay.
My reason is to escape the racism the unjust racism or whatnot within the country that I live in, whether it be America, whether it be Europe, whether it be any continent, right? Continent, country, whatever. It's still going under the premise of I'm moving here because of this bad thing within my country. Whatever the case may be, if it's someone moving from America to Canada because of free healthcare, and they can say, well, I don't want to live in the States because of healthcare, or you want to move from one country to another because of dealing with the racial climate within this country. I understand that, or just certain laws. It's like it is all stimulated around the same thing. And the premise is still you're leaving one place to go to another place because you think there's more opportunity for yourself. And at the end of the day, people are still going to look at it from the same viewpoint if they get up and leave the country. If you get up and leave the country, you're leaving the country because you're moving to another country purposely. And it's not just for a job. It's because you're saying, I have more opportunity in this country, which would deem it as a better place for you to live. It's not saying the country's better overall for everybody, but it's saying, hey, for me, if I don't want to deal with X, Y, and Z, I can go here. I know I can live here, and I know they're going to have problems, but the problems that they're going to have, I can endure. I can endure certain problems that they're going to have, but the issues that I got to deal with back home, I don't want to deal with. Like, I would never, if my grandmother had decided to say, hey, I'm going to move to Italy, for instance, and she told me stories of when she would walk to school, they would throw stuff at, kids would throw stuff at her because she went to a colored school, because this is like the 50s or 40s. You would have kids throwing stuff out the windows, calling them the N-word and racial slurs. If she decided to say, when I get old enough, I'm picking up and I'm moving and I'm raising my family in another country where I don't have to deal with this racism or type of oppression, I would never. And granted, I understand it's my grandmother, so it sounds more sensitive, but I would never look at her and say, oh, she's a coward because she ran. She's saying to herself, hey, this country, in terms of in the 50s, right? And oppression lingers in all different ways, no matter if it's racism, whether it's economical, classism, whatever. Hey, instead of being here, she left because of X, Y, and Z. And because of that, she'd rather live in a whole nother country because of that. I don't find that to be cowardly. I think that's just someone saying, hey, this is the reason why. And that reasoning is typically saying it's better here for me than living wherever I'm at. So I don't think it's cowardly, though. Like, I mean, we all have the right to our own opinion, but.
No, I hear you, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I think what we can all agree on is that things are messed up, and whether you decide to stay or leave or, go, you're going to handle it the way you're going to handle it. It doesn't necessarily make you like a coward, but at the same point in time, it also depends on, you can leave and not be running away. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? I mean, if you're talking about Africa and Pan-Africanism, your boy...
you got to chill.
Not Dr. Umar. Not Dr. Umar.
Oh, I thought you was about to go with Dr. Umar. I was about to say, Jesus,
Let's talk about Nas, man.
Yeah, I was about to say, we can't get through one episode without talking about this guy.
Nah, Dr. Umar is cool, though. Like I said before on prior episodes, like, for anybody who's listening, you might not have caught it. Am I writing him in? Hell no. But, I do respect some of the shit he talks about. Some of the other shit, you know what I mean? I don't really fuck with like that. You know what I mean? No, I mean, some shit I hear him, but other shit I'm just like.
Yeah, I feel you. Dr. Umar not favorable of some of us.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But not him, Nas. I was wondering if y'all heard the song and what are y'all thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Personally, I think it's a good song. It sounds like Nas stayed in a pocket that he's comfortable in while still being able to be free to some extent in terms of just talking about everything. Because I think the song is called Ultra Black, right?
Yep.
So yeah, like he's just talking about like being black and everything like that, and just like certain things of being black, But of course, when you paint anything, they'll try to. I forget what Sue Surf said, but it was like, if you can't build your own mural, how about you put a stain on someone else's? And of course, that's what happened with this song. I mean, that's actually a good bar too. I think that was against T-Top.
He didn't really say anything crazy though. Like he said that little line about Doja Cat, and it's like, honestly, at this point in time, when people have something bad to say about Doja Cat, I'm here for it. I don't really care. I'm just like, right. Look, man, she dug her own grave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that she's like, I don't know her personally, so I can't speak for who she is and whatever. But
right.
A lot of that shit just seemed crazy. So I'm like, hey, man, if you want to, spit on her grave, then go for it. I'm not gonna stand in your way.
Yeah, I mean, but you'd be surprised. I think well, let me clarify. When I was talking about like, if you can't paint a mural of your own, put a stain on someone else's. I was talking not about Nas. I was talking about the people that were bashing him on Twitter. Bruh. Well, first, before I say anything, I want to hear Lau's opinion first before I jump the gun.
The song is Well, I mean, the message it's a good message, right? And I think it's very clear what he's trying to say. The song, though, as from an entertainment perspective, is actually boring. I listen to it and I'm just like,
Right.
this is something I've already heard before, you know, and also it's not. I I have to sit in like. Here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with the song. I don't want to say it's a bad song because it's not. And what he's saying, he's actually talking about important shit, and it's not bad shit that he's talking about. But with Nas, we have gotten so much. Like, remember the N Word album, right? I forgot what
Well, it
original.
was called. It ended up being called Untitled. So we'll
Okay,
just leave it at the.
yeah. So
Safe.
that
Safe. I like it.
that album was the conscious Nas album, and I feel like that there was actually some gems on there, but during that time, right? Because and it wasn't too old of an album like early 2000s. No, it was in the tens.
No, it was in the 2000s.
No, I thought it was in the. I thought. Oh no, you're right. It was in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Late, yeah, very late 2000s. But nobody was there for it. You know what I mean? No, Nas is washed up. But I mean, you're always gonna have the old school heads, the old school hip hop heads, whatever. But like the generation was just like, nah, we're not here for it. So he comes out with this song now, and I'm just like, look, it's cool, but I'm not gonna listen to this song again unless somebody else is playing it. So from an entertainment standpoint, to me, the song was like, whatever. From a message standpoint, it's strong. You know what I mean? Me personally, I don't like Doja Cat. I used to support her till
Everything came out about her.
right, and so I right there, I don't really support her, but I don't think Nas should have name dropped her. You know what I mean? Because like name dropping her is kind of like a clout move. I'm like, to me, he's bigger than Doja Cat. He don't need nothing to do with Doja Cat. And I understand, you know, being black, ultra black is the opposite of, and the opposite is Doja Cat, whatever. And I get it, but like he was trying to like an explanation type of deal, but he didn't have to say. He didn't have to say her name. You know, leave her in the dust because now you brought attention right back to her again.
Right.
And her response to it was corny too when she was just like, "Oh,
what did she say?"
like, no, well, so it was like a little, I don't know, TikTok clip, or it could have been an Instagram reel and she's listening to the song, and it's just kind of like, "Oh, guys, I'm so offended by." Then she proceeds to name some like fucking band in another song, kind of like trolling that. And
Yeah,
to me, it was just corny, bro. But
she's
but
kinda
once
lame.
again, but once again, her fan base gonna buy into it. They're gonna buy into it, and it's keeping attention. So that's the only thing about the Doja Cat line. I'm like, no, you didn't have to waste your time writing about her. Now I get it, but
I mean, see, my thing is I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with him dropping her name in it because at the end of the day, I think though people look at things from like a clout perspective, I mean, I think at the same time, I think the term clout has jaded so many people into saying that you can't have an opinion and stating your opinion on a public platform sometimes. And not always, but I think far too often some people look at it like that, like, oh, like it's the same as saying, oh, he's a hater. No, I just have an opinion that's just not as favorable. It's not favorable to you. So I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I think I think I have more of a problem with the backlash from it. And I think sometimes in those type of situations, I think it's good to put someone's name in it because when there's blowback or you see where the fish that come to the surface after you stir the water, you start to notice things and you start realizing like, oh, this is how you look at things. Like I didn't know until this song came out that there's some people that I know that they're like, oh, nah, like they're conscious and they have their opinions and X, Y, and Z that we sometimes don't agree with. But it's like a healthy conversation between like people. And they're like, oh, no, I still rock with Doja Cat. And it's like, why? And a lot of people are taking a stance of because she's a woman. A man shouldn't be attacking a woman, but it's like,
fuck that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with any dude like going hard on a woman, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean like hard though. What he said wasn't even that bad. And not only that, but like I said, she dug her own grave with the shit she was doing and saying. So it's like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird. I'm not gonna defend somebody who's hanging out with white supremacists. Like, period.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And made a song that was what? I'm not even gonna say the song, but it was a song that she had dropped shortly after the death of Sandra Bland that was pretty much trying to say that people love saying us as people love saying we didn't do nothing when in fact we didn't do anything and we're being detained against for no reason or pretty much, long story short, she was trying to justify police brutality in so many words. But I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't have a problem with it. I think the backlash that he got from it was just ridiculous. People are just saying like, oh, and then on top of it, did you see the field day they had when when they found the pictures from that Untitled album?
Nah.
Oh, they had man, if you saw the field day Twitter came, they try to get Nas the hell out of here, bro. Because it's the picture where I think he goes to, I think he's on his way to the Grammys, right. And he has the N-word across his shirt, and the girl that he's with has the N-word across her shirt, and they tried to kill this man for that. And then they brought up him and his domestic situation he had with Khalees, and it's like, fam, y'all, in the words of Dr. Umar, y'all majoring in the minor things, bro.
Man, it's one of those things where people are gonna...
Hold on. Let me get this straight. Domestic violence is not a minor thing. Let me just make that clear.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But like, it's one of those things where people are gonna make their opinions about the things that happen, and we don't have to agree. So kind of fuck those people. But what I can say is that most people are liking Drake's new song that came out, "Laugh Now, Cry Later."
It's all right.
You don't really like it like that.
Nah,
as soon as Lau heard it, he said he was top 10 of all time. That's what he said.
All right, so Nigel has a habit of changing the narrative. He loves.
Did you not say that? I'm not changing the narrive.
I'm telling you, Smith.
It was like 12:01. He's like, oh, like Drake is
12:01. The song is longer than 60 seconds.
I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah. Lau was like, oh, he dropped a new song. He's the GOAT, bro.
He heard
a
few
you
words.
Listen to it?
Yeah.
Said, yeah. Yep, so that's the GOAT talking.
What I really said before, the pathological liar started to speak about it, that I said if the next Drake album is fired and it's like on the level of Nothing Was the Same, Take Care, blah, 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 I think it's fair to start putting him in the conversation of top 10 rap artists of all time. Not lyrical ability, as the overall package, top 10 of all time, if his next album is good. Because at that point, in my argument is like, how many good albums does he need to have before we put him in that conversation? Well, some of these rappers that we put in our top 10s, they don't have as many good albums as he does. So let's be fair. And I know, Drake is like LeBron, right? Not everybody likes LeBron. A lot of people love to hate LeBron, and they do the same thing with Drake. And I feel like if the next album is a good album, is fire, I think it's fair to put him in that conversation.
I mean,
that's what I said.
I to be honest with you, I don't think he has to. To be honest with you, Drake does not have to put out another album for the rest of his life, and it should be talked in the top 10 conversation.
Right.
Like, and it just like the conversation was this week about Drake being, I forget who it was that brought it up, but Drake being the Michael Jackson of our era.
Fat Joe.
Yeah, Fat Joe, Jopra. Like, I feel like there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, he's done it big. There's no one that's ever done it as big as Drake. And there will be an artist there will be an artist that will surpass Drake one day. That's without question.
Yeah. It's history.
That just sounds like a crazy comparison to me, though. Like, I don't know. I don't like it because it just sounds. it just sounds weird to me. Like, I feel like just two totally different artists. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the saying. I mean, I get it. I get why somebody would say the Michael Jackson of our era, but that just sounds so weird. Like, it just feels weird even saying that. To me, it's just
it's the truth.
I hear you. I mean, he's been around for a long time. He's been doing things since he was like a kid. Like, I get it. Like, but at the same point in time, it just feels weird to say it. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that because of like you're hanging on to like the nostalgia of Michael Jackson, and you're like, man, I'm not the biggest Drake fan, so that's why I'm saying it. Or you're saying it because
no,
you're kind of like
love to say I don't like Drake. Man.
let me finish. Or you're saying it because you think it's disrespectful to Michael Jackson's name.
I just think it's weird when we start like try to put people in this air of, oh, well, they're the this of our era. It's like, no, like Drake is Drake to me. I don't think there will ever be another Drake. There will be artists that'll be like Drake. There'll be artists that will surpass Drake. But Drake is Drake, like Madonna is Madonna, like Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson. I just don't like saying like, oh, he's the this of our era. Like, to me, like, nah, I don't think he's the Michael Jackson. I think Drake is Drake. And I think it's just weird to kind of compare them because they're just different. You know what I mean? They're just different.
I mean, technically, I get where you're coming from, but I think at the same time, it's just like the conversation was last year or earlier this year about Chris. Like, to be honest with you, I had this conversation with a friend about the Beyonce Chris Brown thing, and really, you know what I'm saying, like how Beyonce is like the Michael Jackson of this era, when it may really be Chris Brown at the end of the day. But I think. And trust me, I've had this conversation a couple times. So I know Michael Jackson's catalog pretty good inside and out. And there's a possibility that there's a whole conversation about when you have a real conversation about Michael Jackson's catalog, there's enough evidence to say how there's others that you can put in front of him, right?
Right.
Because of just like him having really. He only had in his lifetime he only had 5 albums in his lifetime, and like solo albums, I believe, while he was alive, 5 or 6. And we only really live off of those 1 or 2 albums, Off the Wall and Thriller, I believe. Yeah. So
yep.
And so we pretty much give him we've given him this highest esteem because of something he did in the 70s, right? And he lived off of it, and he did amazing work because it was extremely creative as well. And just a genius in terms of a businessman. But when you look at Drake in the same regard, I mean, I think Drake checks the boxes in terms of iconic star within rap. He would be, to me, I agree, he is like the Michael Jackson. Like, I remember when Drake went to Howard, he just popped up in Howard one time. And this was after he had put out the If You're Reading This Too Late or whatever it was. And he was like, I do not chase girls. They'll run a mile from me. He literally pulled up to Howard, unannounced, came. As soon as they found out, you had people running from one end of the campus all the way to the other just to see Drake. Like,
I mean, man, fuck that.
That's Michael Jackson's shit.
We could talk about an experience that we shared when we went to fucking Bliss, bruh. When we went to fucking Bliss, that we miss fucking Drake, but we
yeah. Because we went there for Drake, right?
Yeah, but remember how there was one point in time that night where the club was going fucking crazy, and apparently Drake was there, and we fucking missed it. Like, really? So like it's just kind of like, god damn. It was kind of like what you're saying is true, bro. I think he's the biggest artist in the fucking world, right? I mean, he's obviously the biggest rap artist, and as far as other genres, he definitely has that crossover appeal. You know what Absolutely. I mean? So I feel like that when Fat Joe and other people are saying he's the Michael Jackson of the era, in my opinion, I think they're just kind of like trying to relate, like, look, this is how big Drake is. Right. I don't look at it as kind of like they're trying to discredit Michael, because he's a GOAT, right? He's a legend, the king of pop, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they're trying to say like Drake passed Michael in musical success, and that's an argument for another day if you believe that or not. I don't, you know, but the way I took it is just like, look, Michael's here, and Drake is up there too. You know, he's that damn big and that damn good, and that's how I see that.
I'm not going to argue that.
And I feel like that his new song that he came out, I think is a good song. Is it his best song that he ever made? No, but it's a good song. You know what I mean? It's a solid song. It's like, you know, here we go. We're about to go back into OVO season, right?
Pretty much.
Or Drake season. And now my only gripe with the song is just kind of like, I was talking to Nigel a little bit earlier about this, is there's a conversation starting to build up saying that Lil Durk carried Drake on the song, which I just think that's extremely ridiculous. How a guy who had 15 seconds on a 4-minute fucking song carried him. And what he said, all those 15 seconds didn't like fucking blow the world away. Any fucking rapper could have said what he said, you know? So,
but I think
that's just like my only gripe with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. Like, I've listened to the song a couple times. I think, and there are moments where I've, like you said, because this Dirk's part was so short that I kind of did forget that he was on the song at some point. But in the same breath, I think, I'm not going to say he carried it, but I think the song's success is part of Lil Durk's contribution. And I only say that because when I listened to the song initially, I wasn't feeling it. It wasn't until Durk's part came on, and it cut the beat differently than what Drake was doing. Right. That I was like, all right, cool, I can rock with this. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of conversations to be had about Drake, and I'll just leave it at this. I think Loverboy comes out next week, I think, or something like that, or the 28th, I believe. So I got my prediction. I think whenever he drops this within the next coming weeks, I think he's going to do maybe, I would say 800 to 900.
Fair enough.
Damn, I was gonna say like 700 to 750.
Nah, yeah, he's gonna do numbers, especially right now. Like Drake's gonna kill it.
700 is numbers though.
Yeah,
that's like going diamond today, damn near.
Yeah, I hear y'all, but I think he might be like near platinum, especially if like he has like another song that comes out like that before this is all said and done. He might go platinum very quickly.
So
he's gonna go platinum.
You gonna probably ask the same question I'm thinking. Go ahead, La.
No, I was gonna ask. Well, I was gonna say we can all agree that he's going immediately gold in the first week.
Oh yeah,
easy.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna go gold before the album drops. To be honest, based off whatever, he may end up going platinum just off this single. To be honest with you,
possible.
Man, it's possible.
So
it's possible.
Before we jump off of this, like I want to ask you a question, then, Nigel. If he was to do the million number, right?
Yeah.
In this climate today, in 2020, despite granted it's a pandemic, but he would be doing first week numbers that is rarely seen anymore.
Okay.
Would you still argue that he's probably not at that Michael Jackson, or would you still feel like you don't see why people would compare them, even if he has home running numbers like that?
My issue with the statement isn't necessarily the comparison. I just don't agree with it. Like, like I said, I just don't like comparing people to that. Like, it's like Drake is great. I'm not going to try and take away from Drake's greatness, but I just don't agree with calling him the Michael Jackson because I just feel like they're just two separate entities. You know what I mean?
But they're both icons, so. And
that's fine. That's cool. And they're both separate people. Like, you know what I mean? That's just the way I see it. Like, they're just separate. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like thinking of one in comparison to another because I feel like you're just taking a lot into account at that point in time. They're just different. They're too different for me to really compare. That's all.
All right. So quick question. So do you feel as though when you look at someone like a LeBron versus, or not LeBron versus, but when they have the MJ LeBron conversations or whatever, do you feel like those conversations are unnecessary as well?
No, it's not necessarily that I think they're unnecessary. I just think LeBron is LeBron, and I think Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time. But I fully understand why the debate comes up. To me, it's like I think that comparison's a little better because they're playing the same sport, you know, like different time eras, different things going on. But at the same point in time, like you got Michael Jackson in the 70s and 80s with, you know, Off the Wall, Bad, and Thriller. Okay, cool. But like you're talking about like two totally different time periods, two totally different people, two different genres. Like it's just different. Like, you know what I mean? But I just don't like the comparison.
I get it. I mean, to me, I don't want to harp on this too much, but I can understand. Honestly, when you put that more into perspective, I gotta favor Drake on that. To be honest with you, because I think Drake has a harder time than Michael Jackson does.
Yeah, I disagree. At the end
of the day. I see it. He has a harder time than Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson lived in an era where you can put out one album, and granted, he wasn't writing all his own music either, so he was putting out music, maybe one album every 3 or 4 to 5 years sometimes.
Yeah.
In comparison to someone like Drake who puts out an album every year, in order to get the numbers that he gets, he's not even getting to reach 1 million today is like to become a platinum rapper within the first week or 2 weeks is a hard task today in comparison to back then.
I disagree with that. I mean, that's just...
No, you say you disagree with that.
I disagree that it... So the reason... I disagree with parts of what you said, only because, like, I feel like Drake is, like, highly accessible. You know what I mean? Like, so to the world. You know what I mean? Michael Jackson wasn't always highly accessible, but yet, like, he was, like, worldwide known in, like, the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? And that's, like, just, like, when I feel like media was, like... Like, don't get me wrong. It was a... I mean, is it though? Like, you know what I mean? With the internet in play?
Yes, it's absolutely. It's easier. It's easier because you look at someone like...
I don't know, man.
If you live during a time where there's no internet, right? The only thing... the thing that made people want to actually be attracted to you was people sat around, thought, oh, what does he do for a living? What does Michael Jackson's house look like? X, Y, and Z, right?
Okay.
Michael Jackson could call up any publication and be like, hey, come down to the ranch. Come down to Never Everland, right?
Okay.
And you go there. I watched the 60 Minutes documentary on him.
That's cool.
Everybody did. Everybody did. And I think during that time, the opinions of many people, definitely from a fan perspective, outside of just the music itself, was ran off of publications. Off of whatever the media tells people. People were more inclined to believe the news because you didn't have a Shade Room. You didn't have TMZ. You know what I'm saying? Or if you did have something like a TMZ, which was like, I think it was like Esquire or something, not Esquire, but it was another magazine publication that no one really took serious. So like, I think Michael Jackson had an easier time. And on top of it, the marketing dollars were the budgets were bigger back then. So he was able to actually put in $1 million or $2 or $3 million into marketing his music. Drake puts out music every year. He does have writers. He's been on the charts for 270 weeks or some wild shit like that.
Right.
Like he's doing it. And on top of it, to make yourself more easily accessible means in order to keep the attention of people at a certain rate, you have to be in front of a camera more often, which takes away from you being able to do what you want to do more of. So to me, I think it's harder in this era. We live in a microwave attention span era in comparison to back then.
I hear you, but like at the same point in time, like I just don't fully agree with that. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that also we're kind of I feel like the conversation's taking a little bit of a turn. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like we're talking more or less about the way
it's a good conversation though.
I hear you, but it's like at the same point in time, I feel like I'm not really trying to argue more or less the fact of Drake's, like, even though I did bring it up, his accessibility and all that other stuff. I just like music wise and the way we perceive them. Like, I just don't agree with the way we think. Like, I just don't agree with that assessment. Like I said, I just think they're two different people, two different genres, A lot of different things go into the way we access the artist. A lot of different things go into the marketing. Like that's all a different discussion. You know what I mean? I understand why you're saying that because it's part of the discussion, but at the same point in time, that's not where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? So it's like, I hear you. I just don't really fully agree with it.
So you're coming from the standpoint of just the music itself, then?
Yeah, there's just different artists. That's all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just different artists, and I feel like the way we perceive them is just different. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's just too many differences between the entity known as Drake and the entity known as Micheal Jackson to say, like, hey, he is the Micheal Jackson of our era. I just don't agree with that comparison. But they're both fucking great.
But there's a lot of similarities as well.
So what you're saying is kind of like this, right? Let's say if somebody was like, "Oh, Drake is the Jay-Z of our era," would that be something that you'd be more comfortable with because they're within the same genre?
Absolutely, and I would agree to that. Oh, you don't, because you're Jay-Z. You're Jay-Z.
No, but no. It's not even that. To be honest with you, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. I'll die. I'll cry when Jay-Z dies. I have no problem saying that. Right. The same probably with Drake, because they're two of the biggest artists in the music has had an effect on me.
Do you think it'll be a bigger deal when Jay-Z dies and when Drake dies, or do you think it'll be a big deal when they both die?
I think it's equal. I think it's going to be equal.
I think it'd be bigger with Hov, right? Because there's a lot of hate with Drake, right? Even though he's the number one guy right now, there's a lot of people that don't fucking like him. Well, with Jay-Z, people love him, right? Yeah, you like I said, you're always gonna have opposition, but it's like 90% of people that know Jay-Z like Jay-Z. I feel like with Drake, it's more like 60% like him, while the other 30 fucking hates him.
But that changes when people die.
It does.
When people die,
I get it.
Look at Nipsey Hussle. God for rest in peace and happy birthday to him. You look at someone like him. Like
I get Victor, it, the fake love thing.
Yeah, and I think I think because of that, and on top of that, and it's the fake love, and on top of it, you don't get a chance to actually say, yo, I appreciate this artist until they're gone. Like, just like me and one of my friends talk about Chris Brown, right? And I ain't really going to detour too much off of it, but like someone like Chris Brown, he doesn't get some of the recognition he deserves because of some situations in his past. But when Chris Brown passes away, people will stop and look at all of his catalog, and there would be such high esteem for him one day. And I think the same would go for someone like Drake. I think personally, to answer Nigel's question, were you about to respond to what I said or not?
No, continue.
Well, responding back to what Nigel was saying, I think the reason why I don't even put Drake, like Drake and Jay-Z are within that same conversation, but in the same breath, I feel as though, and it pains me to say this, but the honest truth is they're just in two different, the stratosphere is different to me in terms of, if we're just judging it off of music, there's overlap in the music a lot. But in the same breath, I think, I put it like this, I think Drake can do more of what Jay-Z can do than I think of what Jay-Z can do than what I think Jay-Z can do of what Drake does.
I don't see how you can say that for Jay-Z and not say that for Micheal Jackson, man. Like, to me, that sounds crazy. Like, but to me, I mean, wow, like you hear me, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what Nigel's saying.
I get what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying. I disagree with what you're saying. My thing is, when it comes down to it, when we look at music, at the end of the day, when you look at most
I love Jay-Z, not as much as you.
Yeah, I know. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. Huge Jay-Z fan. But it's the truth. Like, Jay-Z is going to give you certain content the same that Drake will, but Drake has the ability to sing on records and make them hits, right? Something that Jay-Z does not have the capability to do, and he knows that.
Right.
But in the same breath, when we start comparing, when you start looking at the biggest hits that Drake has had, a lot of those records are him singing. A lot of those big albums that we say, oh, this is most people, maybe not you necessarily, but most people, a lot of people that are Drake fans that have their top 3 albums, is Drake singing on most of it.
It's fair enough.
And it's still a rap album, but it's still a singing album to some degree. And it hits numbers that we've never seen before within hip hop, which is iconic status, which was the same that was going on with Micheal Jackson throughout his career. Like Drake said in one of his, like, I've been listening to the unreleased music, and even he said in one of his songs, even when I die, I'll never die because of everything that he's put out. And the same goes for many artists, not just particular ones like Jay-Z or Michael Jackson, but
even Lil B, when he dies, he'll never die.
He's fucking legend.
He just put out he put out a 6-hour album like last week or something.
I know you listen to all of it, right? You didn't listen to Bruno with the Pruno?
I listen to I sleep 6 hours, so I play it.
Yeah, man. I'll fuck with Lil B, man. I don't know. At the end of the day, like I said, I understand the comparison. I just don't like the comparison. That's all. Like, I think it's like I'm not gonna. Like they were comparing like Tom Brady to like LeBron James or Michael Jordan. It's like that comparison is bullshit. Like, you know what I mean?
That's bullshit.
But they're both great. I can't take away from their greatness, but don't compare those two. Michael Jordan, LeBron. All right, I can do that all day. That's cool. But don't compare those two. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense.
No, but it doesn't make sense because Michael Jordan is greater.
I think depending on the person. Because some people will disagree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Michael Jordan is greater. That's why
Jordan had it harder on it. Jordan had it harder to some extent.
We're getting away from the topic though.
I know. We not. Like,
let's keep on moving on.
I'm glad that we all agree that Michael was greater though.
Yeah, we can all agree on that.
Hey, listeners, I know y'all listening to this. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you think. Do you think when it comes to Drake and Michael Jackson, in the words of Soulja Boy is really the GOAT.
Man, I fuck with Soulja Boy too, man. Shouts out to him.
Hey, but like I was saying, yo, let us know what you think. When we put up this episode, tell us what you think under the post or under the episode cover art. Let us know if you think on episode 22, when you have to compare the two, Drake or Michael Jackson, in terms of status, do you think there's a similarity between the two and there's a right for the conversation? Do you or don't you? And who do you pick?
One of the biggest heavyweight fights of all time happened last night. UFC 252, DC versus Stipe, and other fights on the card as well. But I mean, like, Stipe Miocic took the 5-round decision and also poked the fuck out of DC's eye.
After getting poked in the eye already.
After getting poked in the eye as well, there's eye pokes going all over the place. It looks like DC has a torn cornea, but I'm not gonna lie. As I was watching the fight, I saw Stipe taking the fight in rounds 2 and 3 and 5, and honestly, it was a good fight. It was back and forth into the 5th round, but Stipe just looked a little bit better throughout the fight, and he stunned DC other than eye poke.
So here's my take on the fight. First 2 rounds, extremely close. Stipe edged the first round. Stipe stole the second round.
Yes.
Right? Because DC was winning that second round until he got clipped and he was getting wailed on. The third round, DC took off. Now, I don't know if he took off that round was because he was getting tired or he was still hurt from the end of the second round.
He was hurt.
But that could be very well the case. Because he definitely wasn't the same, you know.
He was still stumbling in the third round when he came into the third round.
Yeah, he looked like he was still hurt, and honestly, it looked like Stipe was kind of trying to run him down too.
But that round hurt DC, right? Because the 4th round, I thought DC did enough to win. In the 5th round, I think the 5th round was clear that he won. That 3rd round was like if DC. I mean, it's easier said than done. But if he got his wits about him during that, and he really, bit down and toughed out that round, who knows how the 4th or 5th round would have happened? Because in that 5th round, you see Stipe was slowing down tremendously. He was starting to slow down in the 4th, but in the 5th, you obviously seen it. Now, my final take on that fight is just that DC had a great career. Congratulations, DC. You didn't get knocked out.
Yeah.
You lost a good fight. It was a good fight. You lost. Nothing to hang your head about. Enjoy retirement. Enjoy the Hall of Fame. And I think the eye poke had nothing to do with DC losing.
Agreed.
Stipe was on top of his game last night.
Stipe looked great, honestly.
He was just the better man. I was rooting for DC wholeheartedly. Stipe was just the better man. And when you have a clean cut decision like that, or like fair judging with that, you can't hate on Stipe for that, man. You just can't.
My thing about the fight is that, like, I think I give DC a lot of credit for going after the fight and having that interview and just like, I mean, I'm not going to ask for anybody to be like a really gracious loser when the stakes are so high. But it's like at the same point in time, like for him to be there and be like, I can't see out of my left eye, Joe, like all the credit in the world. Stipe has been through some things in his life. And like, I'm a John Jones guy, you know what I mean? Like, but even still, like outside of that, DC's a great fighter. He's had a great career. He's one of the best, like he's one of the best heavyweights of all time, but he just couldn't get the job done last night. It's simple as that. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate that he has to end his career like that. Maybe because I mean, who knows? Maybe he might, get his eye fixed and come out. But I don't think he should.
I think like with DC though, right? He deserves a lot of praise. There's not too many guys, in boxing or MMA that's a great like him that's retiring with a 22-3 record, right? Or 22-4 if you want to count the second John Jones fight.
Right.
Like he only lost to the best.
Right. Like to the best. Like two people who are regarded to be like the best in their weight class. Period.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Hands down, the fighters are considered, like you said, the goats of their weight class. Like to lose to someone that's the goat of your weight class, I'll put it like this: you rest your laurels on greatness at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's just like, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
No, I was just watching it last night, and I was just like, damn, like it's unfortunate, but you can't take anything away from DC. And like honestly, if you say DC's not great, you're kind of a hater for real. Like, you know what I mean? It just shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I watched the fight last night, I saw it and I was just like, man, like I had put some money on DC because I was just because of it was like a small wager, so I didn't really trip, but it was like just the spirit of seeing his whole career for the most part, right? Definitely since the UFC, and some people seeing it in the early years of Strikeforce and watching some of his wrestling. Being that I used to wrestle, especially, I watched some of his wrestling, like just looking back at his Olympic trials and stuff. But watching that fight last night, it was an amazing fight. I can say that. Seeing him and Stipe go at it. I had Stipe winning rounds 1 through 3. 1 through 3 and 5, and I had DC. I had DC winning just round 4. Like I think round 1 and round 2 were really close rounds, and I think I said it in the group chat that I wouldn't be surprised if DC had won the fight only off the strength of them being close rounds. Granted, he got dropped in what was it, the second or third? Second round.
Yep, second. Yeah,
he got dropped in the second round, and that stole the round away. That because of that, he lost the round. The round got stolen from him because he was beating Stipe the majority of that whole round, and in like the last 60 seconds, Stipe was able to just to weather the storm and just put something on him and lay him down. And I think in the third round, like we said, it messed him up and all of that, but. Watching the fight, it was just one of those fights where it's like, I don't know about y'all, but to me, I watched the fight and I was like, this man's he's created such accomplishments for himself that it's time. Watching that fight, I could tell it was time. Like even prior to the eye poke, just the way his body's moving, the way you could tell where he just doesn't seem as who he once was, right?
Right.
And like in those earlier years, it's like to be able to go out on a championship fight is more than enough. Definitely when I think he said he's had like 10 championship bouts or whatever in
a row. Yeah.
He's done a great job. Stipe looked great as well. Definitely with all that's going on, because I think Stipe actually said this training camp was probably one of his more favorite ones because he actually got to work out at home.
He looked fit, man. He looked big. Like it's crazy.
And he was he was only 3 pounds bigger than he was in his last fight with DC, which was crazy. He came in at 233, I think.
I don't know, but he looked like he was working out, man. Like shit was kind of crazy. Like I was surprised, like just how like much he looked like he had left in the gas tank by the time the fight was over. I was just like, oh, like he can probably keep on fighting for real.
Even prior to them stepping into the octagon, when you saw them like at the weigh-ins or even at the press conference, you could tell like Stipe physically, he doesn't even look like the same person as much. Like, I don't know what it looks like he's smaller, but he looks smaller but more fit. But at the same time, he's technically speaking bigger than he was when he used to fight, when he fought last time. So I think the quarantine probably helped a lot. And then on top of it, he's in a situation where he's still a firefighter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Stipe, man, it's going to be him versus Francis next. Dana already said that's the next fight. So all the
Dana
talk
came
of
out.
John, yeah, he already said that's the next fight. So all the talk of John Jones and all that's out the window.
I would love to see that though.
I think Stipe, I mean, he's the greatest UFC heavyweight ever. You know what I mean?
Arguably the greatest ever. Period.
Well, Dana already came out and said he is the greatest ever.
Well, you know, Dana's he's gonna come out and bat for his guys. And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Arguably, Stipe might be the greatest, man, because I feel like the people that he beat. He beat Fabricio Werdum. He beat DC twice. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to beat like a Fedor or a Big Nog to prove like. He doesn't have to do that because honestly, I think he'll knock Fedor out pretty badly.
He would beat them.
Yeah. So like, Stipe is, man. Arguably he is the greatest heavyweight of all time. But that being said, he gets hit a lot,
too much,
a whole lot.
And Francis only has to hit him once, hard.
But at the same time, though, he took Francis' punches before.
Yeah, man.
And Francis hit him. Francis hit him like he hit anybody else that would go night-night. And Stipe took the punch and then took him down and just grinded him out the whole fight. So
that's why I think the rematch is going to be exciting, right? Because it's going to be like, okay, even though Francis has been blowing through his competition, outside of fights, has Francis improved? Or is just going to be a wash and repeat?
I think it's going to be a watch and repeat, honestly.
I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive.
I don't think so, because to me personally, from what and granted, Francis fights are never really that long anyway. It's still like the same, just the same structure as always, like the same game plan. Come in, dude thinks he can actually fight with you, throws a little leg kick, whatever, knock you out, and I walk off. Hopefully you're not dead when I leave the ring. Like, I think with Steve, that's how it is.
He's like, hopefully you are dead.
Yeah, you saw how he was trying to kill Rosenstrike.
Yeah, who actually picked up a win last night. Shouts out to him. Knocked out Dos Santos.
Yeah, I was actually surprised because we'll get into that, but
right.
I honestly was surprised. I thought JDS was going to win that fight.
I didn't.
But JDS was not. I mean, well, I'm talking about I didn't think so until he got into the ring and I saw his performance. He was winning the fight. Nah. I think JDS was winning that fight, honestly.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. He was technically better than Rosenstrike. But Rosenstrike, he got a good counter, but JDS, it's just, I'll put it like this. JDS is just, talk about somebody who needs to retire. He needs to retire.
I agree with that 100%.
At least Daniel Cormier was able to get a 48, 47, 49, 46 type of loss in a championship bout. Right. JDS, man, you touch him up. I mean, when Curtis Blades knocked him out, I was like, my God, this guy is clearly not the same. And you know, Curtis Blades, he loves to go for the legs. So like, it's just. He has to retire, bro. He's not at that point. He's putting his fucking health in danger. Like,
not only that, but Rosenstrike didn't even look good. Like he looked timid as hell. He threw a few punches out, and luckily he caught him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like honestly, he has a lot of power. Like he has power, but he's not really that fucking great. Honestly, he's not.
Yeah. And I'll say this, and I'm not going to say necessarily not as great, but that's how I'm looking at this Stipe versus Francis fight, honestly. Like, until Francis could show me something other than just knocking someone out, because I've seen Stipe actually take one of those punches, and he's not just going to sit. He's going to move his head. He's not just going to stand there and let Francis punch him. Like, I don't see anything. I don't see, like, that's the reason why I'm saying I think it's a wash and repeat. Like, the same with Rosenstrike, because Rosenstrike didn't look good last night either. Like, and that's why I was saying, like, I wasn't sure if JDS was that much better than what we thought he would have been, or if Rosenstrike was just not that great. And I think it's a mixture of both. I don't know. I think JDS, it probably is time. It is time for JDS, honestly, to call it quits and hang it up. And just like Lau said last night, like, it wasn't anything impressive by Rosenstrike at all last night. Like, it's kind of like, to me, it's like, oh, you won, but I kind of gave it the same weight as like Cheeto Vera. Like,
that fight was interesting though.
It was interesting, but I think it's more or less because of the quote that he had. I had more dog in me than him. Like, to me, it just seemed like the kid that kind of just got he lucked up on a fight.
Yeah, talk about banana peel, right? So, I think that
wasn't even a banana peel. He broke his foot, bro.
Yeah, So I don't have a problem with Cheeto Vera winning the fight, right? Because at the end of the day, he went in for the ground and pound, and the ref had to stop it. The thing, I don't like this narrative that's going to start to develop, and we all know it's going to develop. Oh, but Cheeto, he crushed Sean O'Malley. He finished him. He knocked him out. Blah blah. And I'm like, man, the reality is, anybody with a peanut-sized brain, they could see that Sean O'Malley took himself out of the fight because he fucking rolled on his ankle and fucked up whatever he had going on. And apparently it's a re-entry from what he had before.
Oh, so, from like 2018, I think.
Yeah, so it's kind of like for real, I mean, that's a fight I would like to see run back, but of course that's not going to happen because Cheeto's going to move on to fight somebody in the top 15 or top 10, while Sean O'Malley got to go through rehab now, right? Whether surgery or not. So I can't say I'm impressed with Cheeto because he didn't do anything, you know?
Honestly, I mean, he did. I agree. I agree he didn't do. I'll put it like this. I'm somewhat split because though I said, like, yeah, he didn't do enough to impress me to be like Rosenstrike did, right? He didn't impress me in the same. He impressed me in the same fashion as Rosenstrike, but in the same breath, I think it's. The debate really, I think the debate is less about what happened on the feet and more what happened on the ground.
Right.
Just because just anybody that watched the fight, Sean O'Malley was killing him the whole time, rolled his foot like you said, and that's when you saw the tides change. And when the tides changed, you started seeing Vera saying, yo, I need to press this dude because I got him. And you can, if anybody really watched the fight, you could see Sean O'Malley trying to like pretty much not hobble, but he's trying as much as he can to not put any pressure on his foot while he's standing up. Yeah. He gets caught, goes down, he tries to get up, and he tries to put weight on that foot, can't get back up, and then that's when Vera was like, yo, it's time. Gets on top of him, and he's hitting him, and he hits him with some good strikes that if you watch that fight again, I know Nas will probably want to say this too. It looked like he almost knocked him out.
Yeah, it looked like he went out for like a quick second.
No, what I'm saying is the ground and pound where he was on top of him when Sean O'Malley was on the ground. I'm not discrediting none of that, but that sequence would have never happened if Sean O'Malley didn't roll. Because if you look at it from the break, Sean O'Malley he didn't get dropped. From the break, he was stepping back. And he rolled his ankle, and from there he dropped on the floor because his foot or ankle, whatever, gave out on him. So Cheeto took advantage, which he's not wrong for, right? Because you're in a fight, the ref didn't stop it. So I don't fault him there. He took advantage, and he finished Sean O'Malley. So that I won't take away from him, but for him to ever even get that opportunity was because Sean had that freak accident, and like I said, no hate on Cheeto or nothing like that. we'll see how he does when he fights.
Another opponent.
Another top 10, top 15, top 10 guy. And now for Sean O'Malley, of course, the whole world, well, not the whole world, but some people are crapping on him, and we'll see how he handles it. Either he wipes that shit off, and he gets back stronger, or he becomes like Ronda Rousey, which I don't think he'll be.
Nah, he'll be back.
He'll be back because this is a re-injury. That's all. So like, he just re-injured himself, and on top of it, outside of that injury, I mean, when it's been a minute since he's lost a round, like, or not. Let me not say a round because it's been a minute. Like, he's been on a hot streak for a while, so he was already being talked as one of those fighters that's like for the new watchers, like the people that are the younger guys, the younger fans, more or less. He's one of like the new guys that you want. You're saying like, hey, this may be one of the new guys that's going to come up and fight, and we may be watching history in the making. Same way, maybe not necessarily the same as Conor, but in the sense of he's got the personality, he can fight, and all it takes is if he can just keep inching himself up the ladder to a title fight, it's a possibility of him being one of those new faces that I'm quite sure Dana would favor. But like with Chito Rivera though, the whole thing with him was like I think it's a humbleness that you notice in a lot of fighters when, let's say, I know I won, but it's because he got hurt. Like, I mean, it's like you look at someone like Chris Weidman, for instance, and I watched that fight again recently against Anderson Silva. Yeah. Anderson Silva had no reason to be the way he was, but
really kind of just playing around in there. Like, yo, chill.
Yo, Anderson Silva slapped himself in the head and was like, come on, man, fight me. He was like, come on. Put his hands behind his back. I'm like, fam. He started doing the little dance. Then he got knocked out or whatever. But in the same sense, right? Like, even maybe not that one, but in the second fight when it was Silva Weidman too, right?
Yeah.
At some extent, granted, there's some place of the MMA gods and the playing in this, but when Silva broke his leg, Weidman took the win, and he knew he beat him. I think Weidman was understood. I beat this guy, but I never had a chance to really beat Silva. He beat Silva, but he never really had a chance to beat Silva in the sense of fighting Silva when he's being serious, and Silva not having a freak accident. And I think in that same sense, it's the same thing. I think that humbleness there should have been transcended into Vera, like Chito Vera, like.
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
Look,
he lost. I beat his ass. Like, y'all got a problem with me? Come beat me. Like, essentially.
It's like, yo, there's no. I got more dog in me than him and any other fighter in this world. I'm like, buddy, you do know you were losing until he broke his foot, pretty much, right?
Hey, man, he's a heel now. Bantamweight heel.
No, I don't think Cheeto's.
You need something like that, though.
Yeah. I don't think Cheeto's a heel, right? Because there's a lot of people that wanted him to win. A lot of people fucking hate Sean O'Malley, and then because of the whole rainbow hair shit, right. This Conor knockoff, whatever. I don't think Cheeto is a heel. I think Cheeto's unproven. You know, as you beat Sean O'Malley, which is his biggest fight to date, just due to popularity.
Right.
But it's not biggest fight to date as far as credibility goes. Right. When Cheeto starts fighting these top 10 bantamweight guys, like the real fucking guys of the division, that's when we'll really see who he really fucking is in the UFC. I mean, like, that's just all. I just want to see, like, I'm pretty sure him and Sean O'Malley, they'll probably rematch down the line. But now that he's past this line, let's see what Cheeto's really about. Or is this shit just a flash in a pan? And that's all I want to see from me.
Yeah. Oh, everybody, if y'all haven't seen it, make sure y'all go listen to those snippets of Sahai, the Prince, rapping for, who was it, Travis Scott?
Travis Scott,
doing the reference tracks.
The quick thing about that is, should we be surprised?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, like, Well, and it's kind of conversation for another day. Like, I mean, like, we all know that a lot of these rappers are writing for each other at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just is what it is. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean we can't enjoy their music, but I will never say that you'll never be in my top 10 writers if you have a writer. You know what I mean? It just won't.
But the thing with Travis Scott, even though Travis Scott's a rapper, and I like Travis Scott, I think he makes great music.
It does.
I think nobody looks at Travis Scott as we're listening to Travis Scott for his fucking pen. We're listening to him for the like. Okay, what kind of shades he's going to put out? That's what we're listening to Travis Scott for. So to me, I'm not. Yeah, the sound. There we go. I'm not disappointed. To me, I'm like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean?
Honestly, to be honest with you, it didn't faze me none because we went through this already with Tory Lanez. When him and Tory Lanez had got into it, or Tory Lanez, that's what it was. When they were saying Tory Lanez sounded like Travis. And he was like, I sound like the people I write for, if that's the case. And we never heard any backlash. We never heard anything that said otherwise. And he ran around saying this a lot. So I think, and I don't think Travis was shy about it. I think the only disappointment I had from hearing the reference tracks was, damn, this is why we'll probably never get another Sci-Hi album. Because when you start to think about it, and granted, I don't think Sci-Hi can make that type of music necessarily. From even listening to those clips, I wasn't impressed to the point I'm like, you should have kept this for yourself.
Right.
But understanding the level of pen that he has, that you're like, damn, I wish if you have this type of pen, and No Dope on Sunday to me is a really great album personally. So to hear No Dope on Sunday, 2017, and reason why we're not getting music is because you've been writing hits for everybody. It's like I'm happy because he's getting the real bag. That's where the real bag is. Yeah. But I was just as a fan of his music, I was just like, damn, I wish. This is why I'll probably never get another album from him. Though he had a really great album, No Dope on Sunday. So.
I don't know, man. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, see what people have to say about it. I'm sure the Twitter sphere is going to, go along and talk about this for the next few days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they definitely are. Hold on.
What happened?
So, it just announced Kim Kardashian is going to try to get C Murder out of jail.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, man, shouts out to Kim K for that, man. It's time, man. Listen,
shouts out to No Limit.
I was about to say, especially with the No Limit Chronicles going on, let's get C Murder out, man.
Facts.
If he didn't commit that murder, yeah, man, let's get this man free.
Yeah, dude admitted to it on the joint too, because it was like I think it was a series like 5 parts or something like that.
Well, I mean, I think it's still going. Like the 5th episode just came out, but like there's going to be new episodes still for a couple more weeks.
Oh, really? Because I know, I think it's only 5 parts. Because I know they started putting out the DMX one, the Rough Riders Chronicles, actually. Shout outs to BET for doing that, too.
Right.
I think, I was going to say, that's dope. I like that. I hope that they touch on other...
Cash Money.
Cash Money. I hope they do one for Swisher House.
3-6.
3-6 Mafia. I hope they keep doing that shit. That's, to me, is dope. Yeah. And it kind of exposes this generation now to like what we had when we were fucking middle school, high school.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. Because I think it's good to have that exposure, because I don't know if anybody saw this on Twitter earlier this week. They were trying to credit, because they call it, what is it, relaxed and slowed music now? Chopped and screwed music.
Wow.
They were getting, because it's called something different. This generation calls it like slowed and relaxed or some shit, right?
Slow and reverb or some shit like that?
Reverb and relaxed or something, or reverb music or something. So what, I guess this girl did a TikTok video saying like, I think it's Jay Stone or something like that. He ended up creating this reverb music, And it's because of him we can thank him because he slows music down and all of this stuff, giving different music, giving a different meaning.
Man, fuck that bitch, man. Like,
Twitter ended up like having to put so many people on game because I saw Chopped and Screwed or DJ Screw was trending.
Yeah, man. If I was DJ Screw, I'd be rolling in my fucking grave. Like
that's part of the reason me and Lau are friends, man. For real.
Yeah, man. Slim Thug already platinum Chopped and Screwed, bro.
Yeah, one of the things we're related over.
Yeah,
I've never listened to the Chopped and Screw. I never could get into Chopped and Screw like that as a kid for some reason.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Watts, man.
Yeah, shout outs to him. Shout outs to Michael Watts, DJ Screw, Paul Wall, Mike Jones, all of them. Some Thug we can't forget, but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the behind the. I know there's a lot of people behind the scenes that help make all of that happen. Even shout outs to George Floyd, rest in peace, because he was part of Switch Your House.
Yeah,
he was part of the Screwed Up Clique.
Yeah, he had a song. There's a song. There's a couple songs he has on the internet actually. So it's that's crazy how life is sometimes when you look at it like that. But
yeah, life's weird.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely is, and it also just shows you how history repeats itself to some extent. But luckily enough, the artist that the DJ that artist that the girl was referring to, he came out and made a statement saying like, "Yo," he actually tweeted her and was like, "Yo, listen, I'm from Houston. I grew up on DJ Screw."
Yeah, that's good for him.
He was like, because he's like only 18 or 19. He was like, or 20 maybe. He's like, I got that music. I grew up listening to that, and that's where the idea came from for this. So luckily for him, and kids, anybody listening to this, when you listen to music, try to do your research just to see where certain styles come from because history repeats itself. So,
all right, y'all got any final words?
Drink water, wear a mask, and don't forget to register to vote.
Wow.
My final words is watch the NBA playoffs. It's going to be the shit. And we'll see you all the next time, whenever that may be. We don't know because the world is changing week by week.
Yeah, and my last few words are, it's all right to be ignorant. It's not good to stay that way.
Facts.
See y'all later, y'all.
You've been highly advised.